the Milwaukee Bucks waiving Damian Lillard to make room for Myles Turner. First, how do you think Lillard feels about this? Like, should he be excited about the opportunity to get healthy and then sign with a new team next season?
I definitely think he should, because look, it all comes down to this. I mean, he's had a tough go here, right? He had the blood clot, and then he gets the torn Achilles when he comes back from that. So what a rough stretch. And I think now he sits back, he gets the buyout, he's a free agent. Who knows when we see him again? Or if, really. I mean, with his age, I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen to a guy when he's out that long. If he still has a driving desire to be a high-level NBA player, I mean, think about it. He can come back. He's got all his money coming to him. So you could go sign somewhere for a really team-friendly deal and pick your spot and go in and maybe be a difference maker in a team winning a title. And, that's not on his resume. So I think that's something that should excite him once the smoke clears from this injury.
You've been through this before, battling through injuries as a player. Is it harder to go through a rehab, though, without the support of a team?
There's no question about it. Yeah, that's a really difficult thing to do. I can tell you, and they've gotten a lot better with this in the NBA. When I hurt my knee, there is an isolation factor to it, even though you're on the team.
Yeah.
You're not around them the same extent. They're in the gym practicing, lifting weights, doing all that. I wasn't even at a facility that was or my rehab facility was not part of our practice facility. I was a half an hour away, 40 minutes away, where I was driving every day to a rehab clinic where you were in there with people that were also just in there from regular walks of life. I remember becoming friends with a guy on the next table that was coming back from an ACL that had an office job that tore his knee up playing in men's league. And now here we are, both getting rehabbed at the same place. So you were isolated. You weren't traveling with the team. That's like the biggest part of the camaraderie and the bonding is going on those road trips. So there's an isolation factor even when you are part of a team. When you're not, I imagine, you can feel really detached from it all. And I think for a guy like Damian Lillard, ultimately it's just keeping your eye on the big prize. If you want to come back and that is your goal, think about what could be waiting for you at the end of this and the reward that you could have. Imagine if he goes to a team and he is a difference maker. They win a title. Who knows? And how rewarding that would be to come back from the depths of this. It's as low as it gets. Was when he planted that foot in that tour. It's as low as it gets for Damian Lillard to end up with that at the end. I think you'd learn a lot about yourself and your perseverance.
How about this this move from the Pacers standpoint? Like, do you think Indiana lets Turner walk in free agency if Halliburton doesn't get hurt in the finals?
Good chance they won't, but I also know that this was something they've been agonizing about for a long time, and they let it get to this point.
Yeah.
That tells you a lot, right? So I think part of it was they wanted to see what would the market dictate he was worth. And here's the other component. He didn't play well in the finals. I mean, he played good defense against Chet Holmgren. I think his physicality bothered Holmgren a little bit, and it contributed to him having a rough offensive series. But look, the main thing the guy does is he's 6'11", and he can really space the floor. Like, he is a big-time three-point shooter with size, and he's also a great rim protector. The shooting just left him. He could not make shots. And I think it's a tough way for him to finish off his Pacers run by playing that way and shooting that way in the NBA Finals. And maybe in some ways it crystallized it all for the Pacers, like what they wanted to do. And I didn't know if he was going to get that number, because they were talking about everybody like 27, 28, $1 million a year was his market value, like mid-season.
Yeah.
When he was playing really well, he ended up getting that number. So it turns out it really didn't hurt him that much. And I think a combination of things, the Halliburton injury maybe looks like Indiana's put this on hold for a little bit. They're going to they also have guys like Isaiah Jackson coming back, like they like a lot. So, they're looking at that as well. Maybe they can just stem the tide for a year without having to pay Myles Turner all that money. And I think the Bucks looked at it like they have had a rough go here and they had to do something. So they go out and they find another spacing five-man, which is exactly what Brook Lopez was. So now they get Myles Turner. Very similar in all ways to what Brook Lopez does. So I think it made sense for the Bucks too. They had to spend that money on somebody, and freeing up the money with the Lillard buyout allowed them to do that.
Yeah, it is crazy to think that Indiana was 4 quarters away from a championship, and now they seem quite a bit further away than they have in a while. What does waiving Lillard and signing Turner, what do you think that signals for Giannis's future with Milwaukee?
It's a good question. I think it's still very much up in the air, and I think a lot of it could have to do with how they get off to a start this year. What kind of start do they have? How do they get out of the gate? It's a different team. I mean, they got rid of Chris Middleton last year. Damian Lillard is gone now. Pat Connaughton is gone. Brook Lopez is gone. They got some of those guys back. Bobby Portis is still there, and you replace Lopez with Turner. That's a pretty good replacement for him. But a lot of the guys that Giannis Antetokounmpo was showing up and going to work with every day aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And so you wonder how that feels to him. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, yes, there are question marks. There's no doubt. Like Boston dealing with a big one with the Tatum injury. Indiana, I just mentioned. Like these are the last two teams to represent the East in the finals. Indiana's got a lot of questions. The Knicks don't have a coach yet, but they do have a nice team, and they just added a couple of good pieces. So their depth is better. They don't know who's coaching them, so that's a pretty big question mark. Cleveland had a great year. They lost in the second round again, and they're going into the year hurt to start. So there's questions with some of these other top teams, but there's also teams that have really improved. I mean, there's no question Orlando's better, Detroit is better, Atlanta is better. So those are three teams that Milwaukee felt like they, had under control. Now those three teams could potentially catapult the Bucks. Where does that leave them? And I think a lot of it could have to do what happens with the first 2 months of the season in terms of making Giannis understand where exactly is he in terms of relevance and winning a championship.